So I just got back from the One Piece Regionals in Manchester. Great event, I had a lot of fun, but something happened during the event and I got some comments about it on my video showing off my top 64 support. So I want to talk about what happened in my round 9 of the regionals. So what happened was I had to call a judge. And that led to 2 comments on the video that I did for showing my prizing, which are as follows. The first one is, "It's a shame you had to call over 3 judges to try and rule shark someone while saying you just want a fair game, and from what I saw, he was the only bad opponent. He somehow got 3 judges to come over to find no issue after completely unsleeving his opponent's deck and making a massive scene. Shame good things happen to bad people. I just want a fair game of One Piece," as he proceeds to rule shark the shit out of him. Now, I'm going to make 2 things clear. 1. I called 1 judge because of the situation that was going on, and that judge proceeded to get the head judge because of the situation. In my opponent's deck, there were cards that were sleeved upside down. I am going to show you exactly how it was. So this is the reason I called the judge over during my round 9 opponent before the game even started. Now, what happened essentially was my opponent shuffled their deck. They shuffled their entire deck with no issues. They then presented their deck for me to cut, and what do I find as soon as I proceed to cut their deck? But a card the wrong way around. Now, you might not be able to tell between these 2 cards, but these 2 cards are currently sleeved in an opposite orientation. Now, what I believed was going on, because of this law, is obviously sleeved in the sleeve face down, and this beige is sleeved in the sleeve face up, is that my opponent had butterfly cutted his deck. There was an issue, obviously, where he might have flipped the cards, shuffled them together, and there was some from the last round that were upside down. So what I did was I told him, listen, it's an error, things can happen, just go through your deck, make sure everything's facing the right way for me, and then we can start the game. He goes ahead, looks through his entire deck, presents the deck to me after shuffling it, and what do I find? Sleeves still facing the opposite way. Now, when you see this, the first thing that comes into your head is your opponent is doing something fishy. So I did the right thing and called a judge. I called 1 judge over. He then proceeded to come over to help me with the situation. I tell him, listen, my opponent has presented his deck twice, and both times, even after looking through the entire deck, there are cards that seem to be face down in his deck. The judge goes ahead, takes a look through his deck, and ensures that there are no cards face down. And what do we find? Multiple cards sleeved, like this Trafalgar Law here, where multiple of them were sleeved face down, essentially coming out the bottom of the sleeve in comparison to the majority of his deck, which were coming out the top of the sleeve. Now, the judge looks through the cards. They were 5 different cards, and honestly, I can understand a mistake like that. My shock was that it happened 9 rounds in and no one had noticed that these 5 cards were face down in his deck in comparison to the sleeving method that is normal, correct? Where you put them in the top in comparison where you put them in the bottom. No one through 9 rounds noticed this, which I find shocking. So the judge goes ahead, explains to me what's going to happen. My opponent's going to get nothing essentially, and we're going to be able to begin. He's just going to have to correct it. But the judge says because the cards were 5 different cards and none of them were one-ofs, which it turns out wasn't because my opponent admitted that one of the cards was a one-off, the judge got the head judging. Because there was a card that was a one-off that could technically be stacked, because of currently 5 cards in his deck can be technically classed as a marked card for the pure fact that they are sleeved differently and you can tell where they would be in the deck just by looking at the side of the deck, because what you can tell is this has nothing here, but this one on the end is clearly visible from the top. So the head judge comes over, he looks through the opponent's deck. My opponent the whole time was moving his cards. I didn't think much of it. I'm not a One Piece judge, so I don't know the situation. The judge didn't even tell him to leave his cards alone, so he's just frantically pushing each card into the sleeve. I'm there like, okay, I don't mind what happens. I just want to play a game of One Piece regardless. It was a Bello Betty versus my Trafalgar Law deck, so I knew I was in a bad position regardless, but I just wanted to ensure things were done fairly, especially on round 9 when we're both X2. So the head judge comes over, he looks at the cards, he explains that, oh, yeah, these are 5 different cards, even though there's a one of. It can be considered a mistake, and I'm fine with that. I do get a bit angsty saying, listen, I don't care what happens. I was a bit loud because I am a very vocal person. I make these videos because I enjoy it and I can be very vocal. And I do say multiple times, I just want a fair game. I want to ensure that his deck is fair and that nothing's illegal. Because right now, what I am seeing is my opponent having 5 cards upside down. I think the cards were Raise Max, 5 Kosabo, a Lindbergh, a Kuma, and a Koala, if I'm not mistaken. And there was one more that the second judge, the head judge, actually found as well. So the head judge goes through the entire deck, ensures that everything's just normal, and proceeds to tell my opponent to sleeve them correctly. The opponent then, in front of the head judge, takes the card out of the sleeve and sleeves it exactly the same, literally taking it out in front of the head judge and puts it back in upside down. Now, that is clearly looking like he is trying to do something fishy, which I'm just sitting here like, what is going on? Now, I am getting more vocal because of this, just how I am, and I'm just sitting here like, what is going on? And the head judge is essentially saying, yeah, I can clearly see this is a mistake, he's doing it again. And I'm just like, what? Because in every other card game, you would get a game loss for this kind of situation. And to be honest, I'm saying I just want to have a fair game because I want to play One Piece. I came to the event to play One Piece because I don't enjoy the format. I really don't. I think this format has been just terrible, and I just want to enjoy the game and play my lore deck. And yeah, even though it's a bad matchup, I don't care. But at the end of the day, I want to play a fair game, and the judge goes ahead, takes his entire deck, ensures all the cards are sleeved correctly. He says the judge can shuffle my deck as well. I'm fine with it, but then the judge takes the deck, shuffles it all, and then gives it back to him, and then we proceed to play the game. Now, I had a talk with multiple people after this, and they all said that guy should have gotten a game loss. He clearly had marked cards in his deck, but the head judge said it was a mistake. I'm not complaining. I'm just sitting here like, oh, this whole situation is stupid. It took 12 minutes to finish and sort, so we started at like 18 minutes in with a 10-minute time extension, and yeah, I'm just thinking, wow, that actually happened. But we proceed to play our game, and another fishy thing happens where he goes ahead and takes his life. So he mulligans, does the life, chooses to keep, and then the way he takes his life, and I will show you this as well, we'll keep the opposite card out, is that he takes the top 3, puts them down, and then takes the top card and puts it down. Now, he didn't flip the card or anything, that's not what happened, but this is actually illegal in One Piece, and I simply just say, listen, that's not how you do your life. I tell him this one's correct, which is fine, but these 3 need to be in the opposite order because it is top to bottom. So essentially, the last card that would be in your life is your first life, and that means a lot, especially against a deck that has triggers, because that can change the outcome of the game. Now, that was the entire situation that happened in that round. My round 9 Bello Betty opponent ended up losing. We had a very good game, I think. I even apologized after for the whole situation because I don't like to be in those situations. Like, it's not fair for my opponent, and it's not fair for me because we're taking longer, and I just want to ensure that I am having a fair game. And yeah, I just wanted to make this video to, one, make people aware that when you're cutting your opponent's deck, you should keep an eye out to see if any cards are sleeved in the opposite direction or any cards are face down, and that this is the entire situation that happened. So for those wondering, that is everything that happened. I just wanted to make a video addressing this, one, to be informative to everyone, to keep an eye out on the opponent's deck, make sure every card is facing the right way, and make sure that your opponent's life is in the right order, and that I didn't call 3 judges. I didn't make the guy unsleeve his entire deck. Like, I wouldn't do that. And I just, at the end of the day, want to play a fair game of One Piece.